Welcome to the Big Kickoff football show with myself, Roy Shanahan, and joining me from thebigkickoff.com, it's Neil Dobbs. On the day, we're all settling down nicely to have a look at the Manchester United versus Liverpool game. Neil, David Buggle's not with us today. I think I seen him with a Newton Heath scarf, boarding the plane there at Dublin Airport. Very, very well may have been him. It was just something that we didn't expect today, was it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we didn't expect anything. I think we're expecting something outside the ground. I think we're expecting some sort of show support. I certainly didn't expect to see fans on the pitch. I didn't expect to see a pitch invasion of any kind, and then the flares and all sorts of madness going on. So, yeah, I mean, obviously they went out to make a point, and then they probably took that point a little bit too far. But definitely the unexpected, and obviously the downside is we didn't get to see a match, entertaining or otherwise.
Well, that's the killer part. Can you understand why the fans are making a protest? I mean, there's never been a protest on the history of Earth that didn't disturb something. So, I mean, that's the nature of them. So, can you understand why they are doing it?
I think the average fan, any fan of any club, can understand why they did it. And as they say, a peaceful protest or some sort of, united stand is grand. No problem with that. Make your voice heard. You're entitled to your opinion. Unfortunately, as I said, it just went that little too far. I don't know how they gained access to the ground. There's actually rumours there. They're saying it's some sort of an inside job. A gate was open, or they were allowed in, or whatever, which is disappointing because they would have made a really, really good statement. I think they would have put their point across brilliantly because the kickoff was going to be delayed, and we knew that well in advance. So it got the kind of press that it wanted to get. But unfortunately, then it cost them the game, which I wouldn't think was their goal, even though they definitely wanted to disrupt. But looking at it as well, they also went down around the players' hotels. They blocked them in. They blocked in roads. So maybe it was another kind of a sinister, background. Someone in the background there wanting it to be more destructive than had been originally planned.
Yeah. Well, it certainly did. I mean, I suppose maybe the numbers, did they not expect the numbers that turned up? And maybe that's why it turned into something that was a bit more troublesome than it was, as in the game being called off. Yeah, it's disappointing because how did they fit this game in again?
Yeah, this is going to be a massive headache there. I was just looking at the last set of fixtures that are coming up now, and literally between the two teams, they've got the 6th, the 8th, the 9th, 12th, 16th, 19th, 23rd. So that's a game every 3/4 days. I don't know where they're going to fit this in. If they don't do it tomorrow, which was what Sky, I think, were hoping, say, look, it could be done on the Monday night instead. I don't know when they're going to fit this in. And it becomes a headache because it was such a pivotal fixture for the top four, for Chelsea, for West Ham, obviously for Liverpool. I guess to Man United, it probably a lesser extent. They're not really interested as far as the points. They're already safe. And they've bigger fish to fry insofar as they've got their semi-final second leg now on Thursday. So even at that, would they have wanted to play, if they do switch it to tomorrow night, would they have wanted to play Monday and then have to play Thursday again, even with the healthy goal advantage at Roma? I still don't think they want that, They wanted that out of the way and, to concentrate in the next 4 days.
Yeah. When you look at Manchester United and you look at, I suppose, all the teams that were going for that European Super League, they're all millions in debt, hundreds of millions in debt. You look at Manchester United at the moment, they have, I think the Glazers have taken about 1.5 billion out of the club. They had a debt originally of about 600 million buying the club, which they heaped onto the club, and they're still something in the 500 millions in debt. So they've actually taken 1.5 billion out of the club, and the debt's still the same as it is. So that's a huge worry. I mean, if they were to kind of up and go, it could be shaky for them.
You see, Man United's owners are a little bit unique in that manner, insofar as if you look at Liverpool, FSG, they've never taken a penny out of the club. But on the other hand, they don't invest any of their own money in the club, which you can accept if you run a really good business practice. If you look at Chelsea, it was mentioned on Sky Sports today, Roman Abramovich is just football crazy. That was their expression. And he plugs millions into that club, and he just wants them to be number one. And I mean, in fairness to Abramovich, he supported them from day one. Every manager that's gone through the door, he's always aimed high. He's always brought in the best. He buys the best players. He's backed the managers to the hilt. I mean, Frank Lampard leaving, couldn't say enough nice things about him and the support that he got. If you look at most of the other clubs that are run under that model, Micah Richards made the point there today about Man City. They aren't just building a club, they're building a dynasty. They're building something that's going to last forever. And what they've done and the transformation in Manchester City is absolutely phenomenal from where they came from. And then you've Man United, who it's definitely like an Arsenal, like a Kroenke scenario where winning things is second best. They don't worry about winning things. They don't really worry about winning things, provided Man United don't fall into the relegation situation. I don't really think the Glazers care what's happening. They're a global brand. They make money. They make billions. That unfortunately their agenda is different than a lot of the other big clubs. Now they're a very rich club, very powerful club. But as you said, what does it all add up to in the long run when you're sucking money out of the club year after year? I'd imagine even for you as a United supporter, it's worrying that their number one priority isn't winning Champions League and winning Premier Leagues. It's almost grown the brand and keeping them up near the top without really being too worried of where they go next.
Yeah. I think it's 100%. It's about creating money. I mean, obviously, if they're in the near relegation zone and all, the people get upset, but they're lingering in around those Champions League spots, so people have that glimmer of hope, and they're always hoping against hope, so they're still supporting, they're still putting their money into the club. But this has been bubbling up an awful long time. That this hasn't just sort of occurred out of nowhere. Since they came into the club. I mean, FC United of Manchester spawned off the Glaziers coming into Manchester United, and I mean, if fans are willing to leave the club and set up their own club, and that's way back, then there's something wrong. And now the rest of them are starting to pick up on, well, listen, this is really worrying for the club, because the club like Manchester United, there is no way in hell that they're going to lose a huge fan base that they have. Well, not enough to be in trouble, but there's no reason why financially they couldn't get into Struth and fall. And is there a chance of relegation because you're financially struggling? Of course there is. Look what happened to Leeds United. Leeds United are a big side, financially struggling. Then off the pitch, people knew what was going on. The players knew what was going on. They struggled. It can become a slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Liverpool as the prime example, how many years ago was it now? Gillette and Hicks and Gillette nearly drove the club into complete insolvency at one stage. You were thinking to yourself, you owed RBS a couple of million, but like 180 million, whatever the loan was. People don't remember it now, but I can remember it then because it was very, very clear that Liverpool could have gone under. We could have been docked to 15 points. Remember, they used to dock you when you went insolvent. There's not a lot of clubs come back from that. They generally drop, and they're generally in big, big trouble when that happens. So, I mean, Liverpool were on the doorstep of becoming insolvent, and it was only when FSG came in and recovered the club, and you've seen how long it's taken. Like, it wasn't an overnight scenario. It was a couple of years to get the bedding down and to get the foundations back again. So I think equally Leeds showed the opposite end of how badly a business practice can be ran. And the next thing you know, you find yourself in all sorts of trouble. It only takes to lose your top 2 or 3 players and not being able to bring in anyone to replace them for your club to fall. And, I'm not saying it's going to happen to Man United. I think they're a massive, massive machine, but it's interesting the way the Glazers run it. I think it's a very dangerous system to have, where you're constantly sucking money out of the machine, despite the machine being so big.
Yeah. Do you think that the Glazers will take any notice? Do you think that they will eventually be pushed out of the club?
No. If they were going to do it, it's a long-term project for them. They're in it for money. The system works for them where they can build up corporate sponsorship, international, global sponsorship, recognition, and then they're just siphoning out the profits as the season goes on or as the years go on. It's a brilliant model for them as American owners. I mean, does Joe Glazer give them monkeys what happens in Manchester? I don't think so. Now, I've no doubt this will hit home and someone, it will be explained and so on and so forth. But these people aren't football people. They're business people. Again, if you go back to the Big Six where they kind of climbed down and they had to apologize, some of the apologies were heartfelt. although probably plastic. And some of the apologies were very, very much, oh, there was an issue, bam, we're out. Glaziers, I don't think really care about the football side of things. And I certainly don't think they care about the fans. And that's been proven by their track record.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be certainly interesting to see what comes of this. Do you feel that there should be repercussions for this for Manchester United? Is this something that you just let go, reschedule, and go again, or should there be fines and maybe threats of points being taken off?
I don't look. It wasn't the club's fault, as in it wasn't the people that are trying to get the team on the pitch and arrange the game. This was outside of their control. Much like COVID or some sort of weather system going wrong. That's the only real reason we see games called off these days. I don't think there's a whole lot they could have done about it. It was player power, fan power in this case. The only problem here is that it's so close to the end of the season. Can they reschedule the game, and does it maybe give an advantage to one of the other teams now, whether the game gets postponed and pushed out? Does it give a disadvantage to Liverpool knowing that this game is hanging over them? Imagine Liverpool win their next 3, and then you have to play Man United on the last day or rescheduled day for possibly top 4. That's the only problem. But I mean, what can you do? Can you deduct Man United points? Can you give Liverpool points? I imagine there'll be some sort of quick committee meeting, but if it doesn't go ahead tomorrow, it actually will be interesting if there's a fine or something handed over. But I can't see a whole lot being done here. It was outside their control.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We'll leave that one there. There's not a lot we can do about it. There's not a lot the clubs can do about it. It is what it is. So we'll leave it at that. Okay, Neil, Manchester City and Crystal Palace at the weekend. Manchester City B, I suppose, and C. I mean, yeah. It's ridiculous. When you look at Manchester City, they're after resting practically their whole team. They have about 500 million worth of a B side that come in and play. How was that seen as a level playing field?
Yeah, it was a massive eye opener yesterday watching that game. I mean, they had Nathan Ake, who's like their 5th centre back, signed for 40-50 million. Playing a handful of games this season. They have Sterling, they have Aguero, they had Jesus playing in front. It's an absolute incredible wealth that Manchester City have now. If you go back a couple of years, the Champions League for the English teams was always a little bit more difficult to win. I remember Chelsea having a couple of times where Mourinho almost had to choose between the Premier League and the Champions League, as in which one you were going to go that little bit more for. And he may have made a couple of blunders along the way by resting guys at a weekend for a big game. Pep does not have that problem. Now, he also has a big points cushion. So, look, it's not like, if Manchester United were maybe 3 or 4 points off them, maybe he couldn't afford to do that and play his best team. But, which is the best team? I mean, it's just, he's probably got 15 or 16 absolutely quality players that would walk into anyone's 11. And there's no playing field. There's no level playing field. They are just on a par by themselves. Even Chelsea with their squad don't come near that City squad at the moment.
Sergio Aguero banged them in again yesterday. Well, that one goal, and it was just like Sergio Aguero of old. It was clinical. It was classic, and the power behind that shot was brutal.
Yeah, he's a class act, Aguero. Aguero, he's still only young, Aguero. It's not like he doesn't have any more years left in him, but the manager has clearly lost favour with him that, he isn't starting him. And I don't care if he's leaving in the summer or not. I think the manager would stick with him if he felt that he was his best option. So, what a goal. And it'd be interesting, who would take a punt on Aguero at this stage or where Aguero would go. He's certainly leaving City, so it's an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I think everyone would take Sergio Aguero. I don't think anyone would turn him down. Fulham and Chelsea, it was a good win for Chelsea. Fulham they pepped up a little bit during the after Christmas, and they've just kind of faded away. But you've seen Timo Werner gets it in the neck all the time with his misses, but he creates so many opportunities. He's so busy. He never gives anyone time on the ball. And the amount of assists he's getting must make up for those misses. And surely he is going to start banging them in because he can finish. We've seen that before.
Yeah, I was slagging Timo Werner off last week, but then he went out against Madrid and he had an absolute stinker of a miss right in front of the goalkeeper again. But I think, you made the point. He keeps making the runs. He keeps making himself available. You do feel it's going to turn eventually, where maybe not this season, but you do feel it's going to turn from where, he'll start banging in goals. It won't be for the lack of trying, and it won't be for the lack of the fact that Chelsea don't create. Chelsea create an absolute a horse load of challenges in chance in every game, and that happens back. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea still have options. They still have Havertz, who comes off the bench and gets them a goal or two. Pulisic, I think, is a magnificent player. Playing him and Werner up front, the pace of the two of them alone would frighten any back four. So I think Chelsea will have going. Werner just keeps sticking with it. Be okay.
Yeah, no, I think so. And what do you make of Kai Havertz? It's taken him a long time to get up and running and get a feel for the club. His finishes yesterday were clinical. There were good finishes.
Yeah.
A great pass from Mount and a great pass from Werner. But he looked composed yesterday, whereas before, do you think he's just catching up with fitness? Do you think he's just catching up to the pace of the Premier League?
Yeah, I think a lot of them things. I think Tuchel has definitely found a role for him in the team, where I didn't see Havertz. I kind of seen him as maybe a 10 in deep, maybe in a Mason Mount role. And it doesn't seem to be the case now, whereas Tuchel had kind of put him more or less up front when he's put him on, or at least as a target man. I think it's just breathed a little bit of new life into him. It probably took a lot of pressure off and bringing him out of the side for a number of weeks, and then slowly introducing him. And then obviously he's coming up with the goal, scoring quite a few goals, and he's been absolutely brilliant off the bench the last few weeks. And he probably has even put himself in the shop window now for the return leg against Madrid next week. So I think Havertz has done well. Look, not every player that comes into the Premier League straight away. There's no players that struggle.
Everton won Villa. Yeah, a little bit. Everton won Villa 2. Aston Villa, there was a lot of questions about Aston Villa. Could they go and win games without Jack Grealish? They proven they couldn't until yesterday. They haven't done not anyway well as they should be doing without him, and that's a worry because there's a lot of talk about him leaving in the summer. Everton, on the other hand, James Rodriguez goes out with an injury right before kick-off. There's something about Everton. They have some good players there, but there's no standout world-class players. Get players that are changing games on a weekly occurrence. You've got the likes of Gomez and Allen in midfield are good players. You have Calvert-Lewin up front, who is a good target man. Richarlison drifts in and out of games. They just don't seem to have that consistency, and I suppose they're very similar teams in that regard.
Yeah, I think Richarlison, kind of early doors in the season, looked like their go-to man, the guy that's going to give them something a little bit special. And I don't think he's really had that great of a season, maybe since Christmas even. He kind of flatters to Steve. He scores a few goals. Maybe they need a little more from the likes of him. I still don't think Everton's balance in the midfield is right. I think Ancelotti's gone for kind of tough, powerhouse, combative midfielders, when Rodriguez sticks out a little bit more like a sore thumb when he's not there, because they don't have someone to break them lines or to make that pass. I think they're very counter-attacking, they're very defensive-minded, so they really need a Rodriguez or someone else to take up that baton. To be fair to them, they play Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison up front an awful lot, so it's not like they're being totally negative. I just think they're missing one, like a Sigurdsson, to hit a bit of form. But it seems to be Sigurdsson or James Rodriguez that starts. But they're just lacking that little bit of a spark, and it's probably been a disappointing end to the season with them, because they just seem to be falling away. Brilliant position 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. With Everton, who do you see that could come in, and what type of player do you think that could come in and elevate them to the next level? Because they're obviously looking to go Champions League, push on, new stadium. Realistically, what type of player do they need to get, and obviously can they get?
The Glazers are trying to shut me down, Roy, are they?
Yes. 1,000,000%, deal. I'll ask that question again. I don't know if you heard it.
Sorry.
With Everton, they have a lot of good players, but what kind of players do they need to bring them on to the next level? They've got a whole brand new stadium going to be built soon. They're looking to seek out Champions League football. Like all the others, it's gone from top 4 to top 6. There's going to be a hell of a lot more clubs, top 8, 10 clubs who are all vying for those 4 positions now. There's money being pumped in. What players do Everton need next year, and players that they're likely to get? Obviously not going to get the likes of Mbappe and stuff like that. Who do they need to get, and where do they need to get the players to push them on?
I actually think Everton are very similar to Man United in the regard where they like to play either 2 or 3 blockers. So do you have your Fred, McTominay, in their case, Dave Decore, Dave Alan, Gomez. So maybe somebody with a little bit more ability to break the line. I think they're very deep line. Now, whether that's manager's instruction, for example, with Gomez looked a lot more promising the year before. Maybe under previous managers he was given. I just need someone else to break the line between the defensive 2-3 and to get up and support. Scoring midfielders. I don't know what the numbers are for their midfield, but I can't remember Decore and Alan scoring a goal this year. Maybe they've 1 or 2 each or something like that. It's that type of player, someone that's going to get you a little bit more. Now, obviously, they're in large demand. There's not a lot of scoring defensive midfielders, the likes of Kante, Jorginho, that type of guy. But that's something like that, someone with a little bit more quality. That will get them goals from midfield and be able to break the lines a little bit more.
Yeah, okay. Jack Grealish, there was talk. When Sky Sports today were trying to think up stuff to talk about, they decided to talk about who Manchester United needed. Roy Keane talked about Jack Grealish as one of them, that he's a Manchester United type player. If you see Jack Grealish go anywhere, where do you think he would go? Where do you think he'd fit in?
I think he'd fit in absolutely anywhere. I'm a massive, massive fan of Jack Grealish. I think his talents and what he does, the way he carries the ball, he can carry the ball 60, 70 yards every single time. He's almost untackleable because you tackle him, he's getting a free straight away. He breaks the lines every single time. He can score. I think he has it all. He absolutely has it all. I think looking at, for Roy Keane saying to get him into Man United, fair enough. But the lads also said you've got Pogba that plays on the left. You've got Rashford, who would be more or less predominantly left. He might not be the guy. If Jack Grealish was a right winger, who says he can play there? But I think he would be a great choice for Man United. Liverpool, if you could take Mane out of there, who would I replace him with? Grealish would definitely be one that I would replace Mane with. I think Grealish is definitely the future. I think he's got a couple of really, really big years. I think the most impressive thing about Jack Grealish is when he went into the England side this year and he got his chance, he just seemed to shoulder the responsibility like it was no big deal. He played the exact same way. He took on a huge amount of responsibility. And it just depends with money, maybe what sort of money they're looking for him.
Yeah. Well, I for one would like to see him move on and see if he can, because Villa aren't going to get into the Champions League at any time soon, and if he wants to play up with them with the big guys, and doesn't necessarily have to be in England either. But Brighton this week had a huge win against Leeds. Was this a Leeds team that hadn't really got too much to play for now, or were Brighton good enough?
I think Leeds are off the back of 2 really, really big games, Liverpool, United, and I think they did themselves very, very well. I think Leeds equipped themselves brilliantly against City then the week before as well. So I think this was just one of these games where maybe they were coming down off a lot of journey, a lot of leg. They probably lacked legs, that kind of explosiveness that you associate with Leeds. And Brighton just took the game to them, which Leeds kind of allow you to do to a certain extent. And for a change, Brighton punished the team, whereas normally Brighton might have 20, 30 shots and no goals. But this time they're a little bit more clinical. So I wouldn't read into it for Leeds because I think they've been excellent value for the last 4 or 5 games. And let's be honest, they're absolutely safe. now is just kind of almost planned for next year for Leeds and finishing on that bit of a high for them.
What about Bielsa? Could he do? I mean, he's brought players up from the Championship, and what he's got out of them, he's probably got the max out of them. What could he do with a few named players, I suppose? Quality named players.
Yeah.
Could he bring Leeds further?
It's hard to say. I mean, the style that Bielsa plays is so different than everybody else. It's a real swashbuckling, do or die kind of style. Like, since when have we seen a team that literally just throws caution to the wind, goes man for man, and goes at teams, whether they're 1-0 down, 2-0 down, 3-0 up, they play exactly the same way. Probably the old Kevin Keegan team where he had Newcastle, Espria, Ferdinand, all these lads all in the lineup at the same time. But Leeds really put in a serious shift. He demands it of them. So he does look for a particular type of player, high energy, high mileage, a guy that can do, 11, 12K a game, which is extraordinary. So interesting to see a bit more quality. Would that work, with the resources of the likes of Pep or someone like that? Could you get an 11 players on the field to play Bielsa ball? It would be definitely value for money anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, Southampton down to 10 men, get a draw against Leicester. Leicester starting to struggle to try and drag themselves over that line for the Champions League football. This time they might just get themselves over it. They're gaining the points even though they're not getting the victories. Do you think they're safe enough for that Champions League spot? And Brendan Rodgers, how well is he doing?
I think Brendan Rodgers doing a great job. And I mean, let's be honest, 2 years in a row now, you're talking about Brendan Rodgers breaking the top four again, which when you look at the Leicester side or the resources that Leicester have, they probably shouldn't be, but they are. Like, they're there on merit. I think it's probably a bit late in the day this time for them to blow it, insofar as they just don't have enough pressure on them. Maybe Chelsea are definitely putting pressure on them. Liverpool aren't. West Ham kind of had a blip last week. They lost. If Liverpool had won today or today, that would be the risks. I think for Leicester, they need to get the job done because their last 3 games are big games. But they just, I don't know, I feel they have a little bit more composure about them this year. I think they've learned from last year. If they haven't, it's their own problem, I guess. But I can just see them sneaking it. I think there's too many points between them and the West Ham and Liverpool this time around.
Okay. Hasenhüttl was at one stage, when Southampton hit the top of the league, being touted as one of the greatest managers to come through over recent years. Since then, he got trounced 9-0 and can't seem to win a game. It's a fickle old game being a manager of a football club. Is he someone that they need to stick with? I mean, that's 2 9-0s they've been beaten. They've slumped badly. Is it something that they need to invest more? Is he the right man to keep with Southampton? How do you go from being one of the most up-and-coming managers 1 week and only a couple of weeks later then someone who you're slightly concerned about?
Yeah, well, that's the nature of the Premier League, isn't it? You win 1 week, you're the hero. You lose the next week and everyone, thinks you should be sacked. Hasenhüttl's an interesting one because I like the way he sets his team up, and he sets them up to attack. But it's like a bit like Leeds, where the Bielsa, it's a real do or die method of playing because you're back. And what happens is now teams learn and they're very pragmatic, and they know Southampton will give up chances. In the early part of the season, when they were winning games, it was almost like they were playing carefree, but they were scoring a lot of goals as well. They were winning games kind of 3-2, 4-2 type of thing. They were never really set up under Hasenhüttl to win a 1-0. And that's just the way he has them playing. So I think they've almost ran out of ground this season, where they hit early heights and are shouting to get rid of community goals. He's lost the enthusiasm, the energy that he had earlier on. And they've also lost the fearlessness. So teams used to worry about going up against Danny Ings because he was in brilliant form. Maybe not so much now. I think it mightn't have been the 9-0 drubbing, but when Spurs found him out earlier in the season by just popping 3 or 4 long balls over them, you very much felt that a lot of teams copped onto that. And I think that's basically it. They've copped onto their style of play.
Yeah. Tottenham Hotspur are playing at the moment. There's an hour gone. Tottenham are 1-0 up against Sheffield United. Gareth Bale scored in the 36th minute. When we could talk about the cup game last week all we want, and how they sacked Mourinho, there was talk that there was a bonus going around if you won a cup, that there was something like 15 or 16 million or something. There's all sorts of rumours going around why he got sacked. Some people just can't understand it. Maybe that's why the rumours are going around. It didn't make sense at the time to employ him to win a trophy, and then down the eve of a trophy to sack him. So looking at the players that are the managers that they could have come in, I mean, Nagelsmann has gone to Munich. Rodgers says he's committed numerous times now to Leicester. Eric Ten Hag has signed an extension with Ajax. There's a lot of people who they're looking at to come in for this Spurs job don't really want the job. So who are they going to get?
Yeah, and worryingly, they, even for Brendan Rodgers not to kind of give the whole, oh, I'm flattered to be associated with the job and all, he literally flat out went absolutely not interested in that. And I think Spurs are their own downfall here, because they brought in Mourinho, which was a massive punt. And I think it was a massive punt for Mourinho and for Spurs. And it's kind of like the Manchester United thing, where you bring in this guy who's wardering in. Where do you turn after that? Like, where do you go? So maybe they should be following what United did and look for somebody that was associated with a club of a high caliber. They're probably going to have to go after someone, not Ryan Mason. I think he's just too young. I think it's probably overwhelming, the situation he's in at the moment. They need someone, I'll put it like this, they need a name that's going to keep Harry Kane there. That's their biggest priority. Forget about everything else. They need a name that's going to keep Harry Kane there, and they need investment. Now, the reason why Brendan Rodgers is distancing himself, because Leicester's model for bringing in players for the 20, 25, 30 million and maybe selling one on a season for 50 million is a brilliant model. Like, Leicester have pulled some brilliant transfers out of the year in the last 2 years. Players you've never heard of just come in, and all of a sudden you're selling them for 3 times the price. So I think Brendan Rodgers knows his system. He knows his backers. He does get back Brendan Rodgers. Like, there's every year he brings in 2 or 3 guys for 20, 30 million, which is good business. And Spurs don't do that. Spurs are hamstrung with the stadium. Daniel Levy doesn't seem interested in recruits. And if I were Spurs, I'd be very, very worried, because if Harry Kane leaves, they're done. They are absolutely done without him. He makes them from an average side into a good side. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. What about, obviously we talked about Hasenhüttl. He's been touted as well at one stage. I don't know if he's in the running now. I'm sure he's in the betting somewhere, but it might be a little bit down the pecking order. Eddie Howe seems to be dragging his heels a little bit when it comes to Celtic Football Club, whether he's looking for assurances or Celtic are dragging their heels. But one way or the other, I'm sure a Tottenham Hotspur job would be very appealing to him.
Oh, yeah, for Eddie Howe, absolutely. And I mean, to be honest with you, the one thing Eddie Howe would bring to your team is a good football and culture and a good, attractive way of playing football. The problem with Eddie Howe is, as we've seen in the last few years, his record defensively for Bournemouth was absolutely abysmal. Like, they the most conceded goals, I think, 3 years running in the Premier League, which is a very worrying sign. I don't know, maybe if Eddie Howe goes in there with a better defensive coach, that might help him out. But I think for Eddie Howe, it would be a brilliant move, and they're better players, yeah. So, well, I don't think their defenders are a hell of a lot better. I think that's the initial problem. I don't know. Even Mourinho can't sort out that defense. And if Mourinho can't sort out your defense, you're in trouble, Now, whether someone has the magic wand in there, I don't know. But if Jose can't do it, who can?
No, okay. So you're saying they're not going to get a manager. You didn't come up with any names there, Dale. I was hoping you're going to throw out a whole load of names there. there probably isn't too many to go around. There's talking about Allegri and people like that, but there's probably not too many names out there, and they're probably just going to have to pull one out of the bag.
Yeah, I think you name most of the guys in the beginning. Like, if you look at through Europe, your Leipzig manager, your Ajax manager, these are the guys that are always kind of top of the table of, people that they want. Porto's manager. Bayern pulled off a masterstroke this year by taking Nagelsmann and their centre half. Like, I mean, Bayern just sabotage every team in the league. You would imagine a lot of clubs would be interested in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right. We'll leave that one there. We'll just go through the Champions League. This is the best part of the Champions League, the second legs of the semi-finals. The first one you can get tentative games. I think we got tentative second half with Chelsea and Madrid. Uh, Chelsea look good. You know, I think you said to me about Duff calling out Hazard. I mean, Hazard hasn't done it since he's gone to Real Madrid. Chelsea must be laughing all the way to the bank with that one. How do you see this game going? I mean, you can't really rule Madrid out. I mean, Madrid just have the know-how. They're still in this game.
Yeah. Well, look, Madrid go away in the second leg of the tie, and I mean, they score a goal, and you literally throw the book out the window of how you think it's going to go. And that's the beauty of a second leg for the semi-final. You just don't know what's going to happen. I will say, though, I thought Chelsea went about their business very, very well. The trio in the middle, Jorginho, Kante, and Mount, were standing. We stifled the Madrid trio. I think they overran them. The likes of Modric never really get in his style. I think his passing success rate was just a fine. But they really, really pressed him. Kante had an absolute beast of a game. He broke everything up. I think the head-to-head of Kante versus Casemiro is interesting because Kante came out a clear winner, not by much, but I think I had an indication that it just set Chelsea up to stifle them and outrun them and outfight them. And if you go back a couple of weeks, this is what Damien Duff and a few thought Liverpool were going to do to Chelsea. To Madrid. They were going to get at that age in midfield. So Chelsea showed you how to do it. They stifled them, and they maybe with a little bit more courage could have went for the jugular a little bit more because Madrid were rocked in that first half. As you say, the second half kind of, it turned into a game of chess nearly. I think they both almost. But the game is still open, and it wouldn't surprise me if either of them won it.
Okay, stick your neck out there, Neil. Who's going to win it?
That game.
Yeah.
Or overall.
No, who's going to get through?
Chelsea. I think Chelsea are going to do it. I think they're going to do it.
Okay.
I think they're going to do it comfortably.
Okay. Paris Saint-Germain and City, a very interesting game. In all fairness, Paris Saint-Germain, I look back at the game and go, how the hell did we lose that one? I mean, the 2 goals they let in were very, very disappointing. And in the first half, they ran away with the game. Yeah. Just changed with the goals.
Yeah, I thought Paris were brilliant in the opening half. They really were. Like, City pressed them so high up the field, and the amount of times Paris Saint-Germain calmly played through them, a little triangles, and got out on the other side. Pitch. Maria, I think he was brilliant in that game, and he just kept finding little pockets to hurt City that you very, very rarely see. But their composure in defence playing out and their composure playing through the middle was very, very impressive. And then, look, they conceded a kind of a free goal from De Bruyne's cross. Then just the wheels came off completely. Like the lack of discipline was horrendous. I can't believe they got away with self-destructing like that. Like, where were their leaders on the night,
Yeah. Again, do you think City have enough to go through?
I think this is the City's best chance to go through now. Like, they're playing at home. They have a goal. They have 2 away goals. Something weird happened to them in that first half where they probably had to look inside themselves to figure out what the hell had happened to them. They looked shell-shocked, kind of bereft of belief. But to see them turn it around, I think, is a massive shot in the arm for them. And I would expect them to continue to. I think they're going to come out of the blocks on fire in the return. If they score it, they can put them away. All right.
Okay. So there's a little thing we're going to finish off on. There's some players out of contract this year, and it'll be interesting to see who's actually going to take a look at them. Who do you think is going to nab them? We'll go back to Aguero. Who and where could Aguero go? Who could do with him? Where could he fit in? And who could afford him?
Well, I tell you now, if Aguero was openly offered to the Premier League, which they tend, the Premier League doesn't really want to sell to a rival, I think every bloody team in the Premier League would take Aguero. From Man United, well, not that he's going to go across the way, but Man United would take him, Liverpool would take him, Arsenal, anyone, just absolutely anyone would take Aguero. Aguero definitely has 2 or 3 good seasons left, and definitely 2. And he's just a natural goal scorer. Like, he's a phenomenal goal scorer. It just depends, I guess, like that, what his appetite is. I just have a feeling he won't move to England. If he was going to stay, he'd stay with City, I imagine. But it'd be some coup if someone could pull that off and keep him in the Premier League, because he's guaranteed, if he's fit, to get you 20, 25 goals. There's no doubt about it.
The rumours are out. I mean, obviously City don't want him. They don't feel that he's going to, Pep doesn't feel he's going to get in there. So that's obviously why that's finished. But the rumours, I suppose rumour mills are always going to start, but the likes of Everton and Barcelona are the 2 leading clubs to look for them. What do you make of that?
Potential's being absolutely atrocious at the moment. They could do it in Aguero, and they're the type of side that creates and creates. So it's not like he's going to be bereft of any service there. Aguero could easily go into the Spanish league and score a half full of goals. It just depends, what height is. I know he returned after his last injury. People were questioning maybe his professionalism, that he wasn't fit enough, quick enough, that like Hazard, he was carrying a bit of weight and whatnot. So is that a kind of a deterrent? But then you seen the way he finished that goal on the weekend there, and you just forget about everything. He's just a wonderful, wonderful striker of the ball. So I'd love to see him at Barcelona to see what he could do.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he does go back there. What about Wijnaldum? He's 30 now. Kind of made it clear that he's not too bothered about hanging around Liverpool. So is he looking at it? Again, the talk was, because Koeman was there, that he was going to go to Barcelona. The only problem is that you don't know how long Koeman's going to be there.
Yeah. Well, I think Wijnaldum would walk into most teams as that type of player. Like, I mean, if you look at Wijnaldum and he plays for Holland even, he's a completely different, he's a free spirit nearly on the field. He scores goals regularly, gets forward. Whether he played that role for Barcelona, where he played a holding role like he does for Liverpool in the 6, it's hard to know, but he's such a durable player. He could nearly play every minute of every game. Now, he does suffer burnout, because as Liverpool supporters, you see that in him every now and then. But his engine is just phenomenal. And again, there's a guy that easily has 2 or 3 years at the top level left in him.
Yeah.
And a fantastic player for the price that they're getting him at.
Who'll nick Giroud? Because Giroud has always been able to score goals no matter where he was. If not goals, he's always linking up. Big player, but 34 years of age. You're probably looking at someone taking him up for a year, unless he goes back to the French league again.
Yeah, it's hard to know with Giroud. I wonder, could he go to the Italian league even? Like Edin Dzeko went in there, and he kind of etched out a career for another few years. Look, the problem with Giroud is he's not a dynamic striker. He's not someone that's going to run in behind. So he needs to fit your playing style. And there's very few teams around now that play that holding up target man anymore. Everything is dynamically played over the top, and you have these fast guys chasing it down. So I don't think he suits a lot of teams. Maybe like a Burnley, you know what I mean? Someone's going to throw in balls from all sorts of angles. But he's a dangerous, dangerous player, Giroud, and that's why people keep him around. I mean, let me put it like this to you. If Madrid are playing Chelsea and Chelsea need a goal in the last 10 minutes, and you look to the bench and you see Giroud there, or Kai Havertz, you're bringing on Giroud because he gives you something completely different. His strike rate is brilliant for the amount of minutes that he's on the field. So I think he'll have a lot of suitors, but it's specific teams that need a target man that will go for him.
What about Salah? A lot of talk about him going, and it's been going on so long that it's probably a big doubt whether actually he's going to be there next year. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see Salah there next year, because with the likes of Madrid always seeking out these world-class players, if they don't get an Mbappe, maybe they go for a Salah. But then again, Paris Saint-Germain would have to replace a Salah or an Mbappe. So if he's sending out the signals that he's not too happy where he is, that could be it.
Yeah, well, obviously as a Liverpool supporter, I don't want to sell Salah. Salah, even in a bad year this year, kind of competitively, he still miss a hat load of chances, but he just scores goals. He's hungry. I think he's in the prime of his life at the moment. I don't know where all the rumours come from, yeah, maybe he's waiting, for that magic contract just to say, yeah, you're our number one guy. I'd be sick if he left, and that's being honest with you. But the money he would have to go for would be huge. And again, Madrid, PSG are probably the only two teams that could afford him, because he's not going to go to a city. Like, they've too many of that type of player. It just depends how Liverpool replace them. So whether it's Mane or whether it's Salah or Firmino, it's about bringing in the right guy. But Salah would be a colossal transfer. Like, he would be as big, in my opinion, as your Haaland and your Mbappe. There's not many people in football and world football now that have that kind of stature over the last 3 or 4 years with that. So they can't all, maybe one of them triggers the others. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that.
Yeah, when you're talking about triggering transfers, we also talked about Pogba. We also talked about Kane, that there could be possible moves there for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they're connected, Neil, because David De Gea hasn't got a chance really of getting back into this Manchester United side by the looks of it. Yeah. He's out of the squad at the moment, or out of team at the moment. Henderson is in. Manchester United, Mbappe could be leaving. You've got the likes of Pogba and De Gea, who could easily make that switch to Paris Saint-Germain, because if you're looking at anywhere else, where does he go, really? There could be that kind of one transfer triggering the other, whether it's Mbappe leaving and they need to fill that hole with another superstar, which is maybe a Pogba or maybe De Gea as well. I've had this fantasy of Manchester United swapping Mbappe for Pogba and De Gea, but something along those lines. It's not impossible that you're going to see something like that, because there is going to be a few disgruntled people over the summer, and Harry Kane could be involved in all that too.
For sure. I mean, look, you've got 4 or 5 very, very high-profile players where, in previous seasons, you might have seen it was kind of a one-off. Hazard leaving was a one-off. But if Harry Kane, Mbappe, Haaland, Salah, all these guys are being linked. And let's not forget, Neymar comes out every week nearly and says he wants to go back to Barcelona. So, I mean, the money to trigger these guys, maybe it just takes one of them. Or like you said, Pogba goes in one direction and 150 million plus Mbappe or something comes in the other direction. Maybe that triggers all these other moves. But the thing is, maybe they can't all move. Maybe there's another window before they can all move. But if you take Harry Kane, Mbappe and Haaland on their own, there's only 2 or 3 clubs that can afford them. So, PSG don't want to let these guys go and get nobody in return.
Yeah. Okay, right. We'll leave it there. There's a hell of a lot going on. It'll be very interesting to see when Manchester United play Liverpool, when it can be fit in, and what the result was, because that's the real big thing that we were all looking to see. Yeah, of course, go to thebigkickoff.com for loads of important articles and podcasts. Of course, Neil writes there as well. And have a look at all our social media just to interact with us, and keep an eye out for all we're doing. The Big Kickoff Football Show will be on every Sunday at 8 o'clock, so keep an eye out for us. Talk to you then. Look, bye.